All right, welcome back to another episode of BNFM, the podcast. We are pulling back the curtain on everything happening inside Bottleless Nation. I'm your host Kylie, and today we're diving into a part of the organization that keeps everything running behind the scenes, Water Desk. Joining me today is Marie Thompson, our Integrated Platform Technology Manager, and Kalista Ballard, Developer and Resident Problem Solver. Today, we're chatting about how their small but mighty team gets so much done, how they're juggling their day-to-day work with a massive project called Project One Love, the major system merger bringing everyone to one Bottleless Nation. So, Marie, let's get started with you. I'd love for you to give us a brief overview of Waterdesk and just to give everyone kind of level playing field of what we're even talking about today and what you guys are working on at Waterdesk.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kylie, for hosting
Mhm.
us. And just want to say hi to our other team member, Kyle, who's not on our podcast today with us. And we appreciate him as well. So Waterdesk is actually a CRM, which is a customer relationship management software, and a service relationship management software, SRM, all into one that is customized specifically for the industry that we work in, which is the bottleless water cooler industry. So it handles everything from the sales rep out knocking the door, trying to get a prospect, all the way through to the life cycle of servicing a unit that's out in the field. So it handles all of that. So that's what Waterdesk is in a nutshell. Additionally, we as the Pure Water Partner side of the Bottleless Nation, which handles the financing of the water coolers for our customers, for our dealers, for their customers. There's a specific part of Waterdesk that is the PWP customer service portal area that new credit applications are originated in for Pure Water Partners, as well as portfolio management for any existing contracts that the dealers have financed with us. So all of that
Very
together.
cool. Very cool. And can you give us a little bit of an overview of like how Waterdesk has changed over time? You know, what did it start as? Is it still I guess did it stay like that for long? And what kind of changes happened within the company that caused you guys to shift, over time?
Right. So Waterdesk was actually the brainchild and creation built on a existing low code platform that was customizable and white label brandable by Mike Nelson. And
Mm-hmm.
so he created Waterdesk, the company. We'll probably talk about this later, but my history of actually coming to the product was before working with the Bottleless Nation. And so that product started about 2018, and a lot of dealers migrated from QuickBase was a common product that everyone used. That was also a customized product for the bottleless water industry that a lot of people shared. And then when Waterdesk came in, it was exactly the shoe that fit for so many people, including Office HO and Artesian that are part of the Bottleless Nation. So that is essentially kind of that, and am I losing? Maybe lost the original question too. Was it? What is it?
No,
Sorry.
no, you're totally good. Just how I know that sometimes a need arises and then
Yes,
something is
exactly. Mm-hmm.
created, but then the need changes over
Yes,
time.
thank you for bringing me
Yeah.
back to that. Exactly. So yes, I think a lot of the water cooler dealerships at that time were a lot smaller, and then
Mm-hmm.
over time, luckily, everyone's been growing and expanding their regions, and so then the needs change and very specific reporting needs, different marketing ideas, all those things, and so that's where our team comes in, right? Because we have these great ideas that are brought to us, and then we could say, okay, yeah, sure, I can do that, or hey, we need more visibility on these specific reporting functions. And then
Mm-hmm.
we then have to look to that. When we got brought into the Pure Water Partners side of things, that also opened up a lot of innovation that we needed to rise to the occasion on too. Yeah.
Very, very cool. And as the company has grown and Waterdesk specifically, but also Bottleless Nation, I guess, at what point did you guys come onto the team and give us a little bit I'd love to know more about like your background that got you into this specific realm, because I feel like it's always interesting to me when people have jobs of something that when I was younger, I didn't even know it was a job, or maybe it probably didn't even exist at that time, right? So and Kalista, we can start with you. I guess, what is your background? Like, how did you get into this realm of Waterdesk, and kind of what brought you here?
Yeah, so Marie may be able to add some context because this was before I was here, but there was like the shuffling of duties. So Nick was here first, and now he works with Cody, and so they were looking for a replacement, and then it just happened to be me. So this is actually my first time working with a low code platform. I have a degree in computer information technology, and I was a programmer before this. So it's been a
Okay.
little bit of a shift in ideology and sort of just how to approach the job, even though low code inherently sounds easier, the mindset shift is a little different.
hmm Okay, and for those of us who don't work in your guys' realm, is it easy to explain to everyone the difference between like what do you mean by low code? For those, we have technicians, we have salespeople, like what does that mean in your guys' world?
So coding is, I would say it's exactly what everyone thinks it isn't, sweatshirts and Cheeto dust and like sunglasses. Like it's not necessarily that, but it is very much like on the computer, like coding for a long time, Stack Overflow, stuff like that. And I would say with low code, it is easier like it sounds. But since a lot of the control is under the hood, and you can't get access to it, when you're using a coding library, there isn't really any limitation. It's you use the tool and it's anything you can come up with, as far as a solution. I feel like a lot of times when we're working with Team Dice, we're working within those limitations and what we can do because we don't have access to some of those more detailed, like granular things. So, that's sort of the largest adjustment, like adjusting to that loss of control and just adjusting your solutions and how you would approach things, especially when we bump up against harder problems. There's a lot of things that we bump up against that would be a little bit easier if we were doing regular coding.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and then you've been with the team for how long? And I guess, has your role with Waterdesk changed, or have you kind of been under the same like? Well, I guess I'll say this, knowing that your team is small. There's probably lots of things that you guys do, different hats that you'll wear, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's funny you say that. I was just getting ready to say that term. I feel like when I first got here, um, I started off, I think, with the CS portal, Marie. I think that's where I started. And
Yep.
then yeah, we really do wear many different hats. So I think all of us have, the things that we're, quote unquote, like experts in. Like, I feel like Marie and I are the CS portal girlies. And then, Kyle is anything like work order generation and commissions, things like that. But since we are a small team, everyone knows like a little bit about everything. And as I've learned and continue to grow, there's some things where I thought Kyle was like a magician, and he still is a magician. It's just that
Definitely.
I learned some of his tricks, I would say.
Yes.
Love
Yes.
that.
I might add one piece there is like the integration, because that's something that that happens a lot with that with when you're working in one platform and with the customer service portal, particularly. One of the things that Calista works on quite a bit is making the two systems talk together. So Pure Water Partners, Aspire system, and and then our platform, which you mentioned, Team Desk, Calista. That is the low code platform that Waterdesk is built on, just the white label. So being able to get the two to discuss, to talk between one another with APIs, which application program interfaces. So that's like saying, hey, I want to send information this way about, hey, I want to open a new credit application. And then it shows up in that new system. So we have to make that work. And so Kalista does a lot of that. I think all three of us work with that and then troubleshoot that if need be too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then what about you, Marie? How, what was your kind of like integration into Waterdesk? And you mentioned that you were like working with the program previously. So can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So I actually, I helped run a dealership in Vancouver, Washington. And at the time of 2018, when Waterdesk came out as a product, I was looking for solutions for the dealership that I was helping run and wasn't really finding a good fit, was having to try to customize things. I was about to actually try to build something because I came from I went through a software engineering boot camp. I have, a tech comfortable sort of background, and many other things that are not at all related to tech in my background. But that was one of them. And so, when I went to one of the Pure Water Partners business development seminars that was offered, then it was shared with all of the dealers that this product was available, that Waterdesk was available. And so I was one of the first dealers that actually signed up and to use the system. So I was kind of like a super user, a power user at that time, was able to get into the back end and work with things. And then 2020, we all know what happened in 2020. When that time happened, the owner of the dealership I worked for thought it was a good time to make a transition and sell the dealership. And I was so fortunate and felt very blessed to receive a call from Mike and from Rick to say, hey, are you interested in coming to work for Waterdesk? And so at that point, I was brought in as a trainer and a project manager, and then it kind of just grew from there. So, and the need for Waterdesk just grew from there too. So from that point on, we've had to build, again, the CS portal. We've had to build out a lot more functionality, but that's how I came to the team. And then luckily was able to have, Nick at one point, and Kyle and Kalista that I've been, so honored to work with.
That's amazing. I love that. So you've been in the water world for a while, even before Waterdesk. So
yeah, since 2016.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Could you give everyone a little overview of like what does a day-to-day look like for you guys? I know we're going to move on to a bigger project that you guys are working on, but outside of that, like say we're not merging, we don't have all this craziness happening.
Was there a time before?
What? Right. And you guys are probably like, oh, we can't wait. I also, from the marketing side of things, I can't wait for one. That's going to be amazing. But what does the day-to-day look like? Like what type of, projects are you working on? Maybe questions are you receiving of like, hey, we would love for this to happen. Is this possible? Or, what does that look like for you guys?
Mm-hmm. Kalista, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I can. So Marie is 3 hours earlier than us. And so we have our stand up at 11:30, which is good because then we start our day and we have progress. First thing that I do is sort of like check my email for anything that could have gone wrong thus far during the day or yesterday. We also have some processes running in the background for records that keep like the database up to date. So those are things that I check first thing in the morning to make sure nothing went wrong there. And then I work on like day-to-day things. So like tickets, maybe we're building something or creating a solution for someone. And, as the day continues, things kind of like drop in our lap. Sometimes little, sometimes big, sometimes there's fires, but it really is just sort of like there's things that you can expect, like with the larger projects, but there's also things that just kind of fall in your lap during the day, and so every day is different.
Yeah, that's fun though. It keeps it exciting,
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Marie, what about you?
Yeah. So I start my day because of our 3 hour difference, really having those. I have a scrum meeting with the rest of our IT team outside of Waterdesk and kind of just updating everyone on that side. 3 out of 4 are over in my time zone. And then one is actually on our IT team in the Indy office. And then I meet with Kylie and Kalista, and we go over, okay, again, those files that Kalista talked about. We're looking at, okay, is there anything that we need to know about that people are reaching out for? So ticket related items, any trends that we need to know about, like bugs that might be popping up that we need to squash, and then projects. Yeah, so we're really looking at what projects are happening and just really, consulting on priorities, really, just making sure that we're all on the same page about what is the priority for the organization as a whole. And so my meeting consists my day consists of a lot of meetings, usually, talking about those projects and getting the details, leadership meetings or just meetings with individuals regarding projects and, or maybe some troubleshooting things. So, and then we're often checking in with each other throughout the day. Like Teams chat is always going. We're sharing information, asking questions, and, trying to keep up to date on everything. So, but yeah, that's a lot of it. It's really managing those projects big time. So that's some of what you asked about, some of the things that people are looking for. Reporting, I think, that's one of the big needs that comes up a lot is, hey, I'm looking for this type of report. One of the things that we can provide is making some new reporting in Waterdesk, but we also realize that there's a fine line to tread there, because we're also, the more reports we make, it can get a little out of hand with all the choices, right? Like decision fatigue about, is it this one? Is it this one? So we're trying to make it a lot more of a friendlier environment, and a lot less, or a lot more focused about when you enter the system, this is what you're looking for, and you can find it easily. So that's definitely one of the challenges that we're presented with, and trying to move forward on this big project that we are talking about. They're going to be talking about more.
Yeah.
And then I guess one more thing I might add is, there's always the questions about AI, like, is there something we can do with this, or, some workflow stuff, or, so that's obviously on top of mind for everyone, because that's in our world. So
yeah,
that remains to be seen.
Yeah. How do you guys feel like it will affect you guys specifically in the world that you live in? Maybe, I don't know if it's more of an industry thing that you want to talk about it, as far as, like within, dealers and everything like that, or do you think that it'll have a heavy impact on like Waterdesk specifically?
Well, I'll kick this one to Kalista for sure, but Kalista, I would say maybe a lead into that is just some of the tools we're already using day to day, and what Team Desk provides in that too. So, yeah.
I sort of have a few things to say, especially as like a former programmer. I mean, as a former programmer, it is scary, because I feel like AI is definitely one of those jobs that it's gonna affect. Um, Mainly because with our project One Love that we'll be talking about a little bit later, is I use that entirely to generate like our Python script. I dabbled in a little bit of Python, but not nearly as much as I needed to have like a handle on to accomplish this project, and I was still able to accomplish it. And it was definitely a great tool, and was just like the whole haul of the project. But the fact that I didn't have to learn Python is like, I'm a little torn about that, especially as a degree holder. But even with Team Desk, we've had a few new tools come out very recently, like within the past month, where I've seen, we call it the robot in the sky, which is basically, I think it's just like AI, but it's integrated within the documentation tab. So you just enter something and it'll give you relevant documentation and answer your question, which has been amazing, especially with some of the formulas that we're having to make. I've been very interested in the views, which is the reporting. And you can generate views with AI. I think that's really cool. I think ours are a little bit too, the needs we're fulfilling are a little bit too specific, but it's still very cool. So I feel like AI is just really taking off here.
Yeah, that's really interesting, especially within different industries and how you think it's going to like change the game. And I mean, I think that if it's allowing you to be more productive, and especially when you guys have a lot on your plate right now, to be able to aid you in doing something that maybe would have taken you double the amount of time or whatever it might be,
Oh,
to
yeah.
get it done quicker. I mean, that's pretty awesome for you
Definitely.
guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's been a
cool.
great tool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's wild. And I personally obviously don't work in Waterdesk, so I don't have any like personal anecdotes of like, oh, I was using this and like this helped, but I can imagine how good that would be to be able to just like search up an answer. It probably saves you guys a lot of questions, I'm sure, as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so we've danced around Project One Love. I think if we're gonna talk about it, we have to talk about the name creation and where that came from first. So you should tell the story of about Project One Love and why it's called that to begin with. So I think that's fun.
Yes. Well, Project One Love is a taking. So within our Bottleless Nation family, we have two dealerships, and they started and are currently in two different Waterdesk databases. And so we're bringing them together into one happy Bottleless Nation Waterdesk database to bring the family together. So one love in that respect. We internally named this project before it was given its official name as Project Godzilla, because it is a very large project. And so we all resonated with that one. And then One Love came about. So now we internally we call it Go, but it's Godzilla One Love, but it hyphenated, and both things ring true, I think. So
Love that. Okay, so with Project One Love, can you give us just some insight into what a project like this, the undertaking of that? Because we have, I think what's interesting about, like, we work with external dealers, but we also have this project that this product that we use internally as well. So having these two entities use it, they even use Waterdesk differently and have different requests and things like that. So once you're taking something and creating it as one, I guess what does that look like? How do you guys, like, where do you even start with a project like this?
Well, usually, there's a discovery process that happens, and there's risk assessment. So those are the things that, the ideas brought to us. We need to be able to say, okay, well, we might have certain concerns like speed, for instance, or triggers running. And we need to be able to say, okay, these are things that we can address. We know, or we can do some investigating about how we can address certain issues. And then some that, okay, well, this is our concern, but we're going to go ahead and let you know as we start progressing a little further in the discovery process. And so that starts, we also look at, okay, what are some unique identifiers that we might need to modify, so that when everything comes into the system in one place, we have still unique IDs and everything will connect properly. Because and Kalista could probably explain this even better, but with databases, you have multiple tables and there's IDs, and then all of them are related together. And so you have to make sure that those connections don't break as you go along. So that's kind of a big piece. So so you're starting to break those down into pieces for a project like this and saying, this is what we know, this is what we don't know, what we need to investigate. These are the areas that each of us are going to focus on. We did some trial runs. I did some trial runs on exports, seeing how we can export the data, what fields we can exclude that would take the longest for the export process, because we have pictures and PDFs and so many pictures within it from the work orders where people are going out and doing all of that. Like, here's the serial number, here's where it's located. all those things that are just part of our day-to-day operations, and deciding what just needs to be archived in our old databases and what can be brought forward, needs to be brought forward, what's the requirements, and really having those conversations with everyone in the business. What's important to you? How do you need to see this? Time frames, what are our deadlines, and then how do we break that down into bite-sized pieces and then start iterating through all of that. And then Kalista has been doing a beautiful job in taking that script that she was talking about, that her personal assistant has been assisting her with. And so she could probably speak a lot about what that process of testing has been like. And then I'll just say one more time, then we have everyone in the business involved with going in and doing test transactions and in with the test data, and then going in and doing phase 2, creating new transactions, working their process through everything. That is so critical for our success for this project. And I just really appreciate everybody taking the time to do that and being thorough with it to help us find things that we may not find in our own testing because we're not doing the same day-to-day process. So that's been a really big piece too. So yeah, Kalista, on the script front and anything else.
Yeah, first thing I want to say, we've come so far. I remember in the beginning we have this thing called database matching, and Marie, do you remember the number? It was so long, the differences in the databases.
Yes.
And that's where we had to start. Yeah, it was thousands. Yeah. I think it was in the tens of thousands. Yeah, and so we had to go through that list, and yeah, it was quite difficult, but now we're in the home stretch, and I don't know about Marie, but it has been a blur because I feel like we were just matching column differences yesterday.
Yes.
And so, yeah, and testing has been such a large checkpoint for us because now we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I feel like we've also seen the most progress that we have. We've been able to solve a lot of errors already, and getting a nice clean run with as minimal of errors as possible. And I think finally seeing One Love come to fruition is just going to be like a come to Jesus moment. It's going to be
absolutely. And when Kalista's talking about errors, like I think the listeners and you, Kylie, might like resonate more with like just the data, right? Like so when you're entering in a record, if somebody formats an email incorrectly before we had guidelines in there to prevent somebody from being able to save a record like that, because we have records that are back at the early parts of these dealerships when it was in a different system, got imported into Autodesk, and then data is accumulating and isn't necessarily being cleaned. It's imported in different ways. And so like, just as an example, if somebody puts in like copies, pastes from, let's say, a website that they're grabbing a leads information from, well, there might be like pipes in there, which is like can be used as a delimiter, but it's, the kind of the straight bar that they paste in there. They can have a lot of like line breaks that you may not actually be able to see when you're trying to save a record. And then when we're doing an export, trying to import something in, that's going to throw errors all over the place. And so we have to, that script that Kalista has been cultivating so lovingly, it has all of these cleaning mechanisms, Python script to take all that stuff out and to take all those pipes out that are in there, so we can use the pipes as a delimiter, because we can't use semicolons or colons or commas or colons because those are used in the actual data. So those are kind of some of the stumbling blocks that we've had to work through, and just knowing that, we have to get the data in, try to get it as clean as possible. And then we're going to have a cleaner database for the starter anyways, because of all that work we've done.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's one of those things that, you guys are working in it every day. And so you're deep in it. So it's interesting to kind of see what you guys are working through. And I can imagine how many errors that can yield when people are not putting in data correctly, or, what you're talking about. That's very interesting. So you were talking about some of the things that you guys are working through. What are you most excited about, it coming together and being one? Like what is, I mean, other than it probably being done, what are the other, like, what are there any like new things that you guys are adding in as you merge together? Just anything like that you're excited about?
Kalista, do you want to give any notes there?
Yeah, I think I'm excited about Marie kind of already mentioned how much cleaner it's going to be and how some of the visual noise. I know like some of the account executives and like based on roles, they have a lot of noise already, but it's always less than us because we can see everything. And Marie always like comments on, because I always, every time I make a button or a view, it's a specific color and it has icons and the whole everything, because I'm doing something and I need to find it as quickly as possible. So I'm excited to see that. I'm excited for the UI. The UI will be a ball in my court. And Kylie, you've helped this,
So
or you've
much.
helped us, yeah, so much. And so I'm excited to do that. That'll be one of the last steps. So it'll be more of like, kind of like a feel good, like a labor of love sort of thing. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love the UI because of, as a designer, how it looks and feels is everything. So,
And you've made your personal stamp in Waterdesk because of all the new branding things you've been working
Mhm.
on. So it's going to be so fun to actually implement that. Team Desk actually rolled out that new UI function, gosh, years ago now. It's been a couple of years at least, but there really hasn't been a good time to flip that switch. And because it is definitely a different look feel. Luckily, Calista's really good at CSS, and she's able to make so cascading style sheets. So she's able to make some changes in the background to kind of make things a little bit more like we would expect to see them using that new UI, and then apply the new Bottleless Nation branding. So that's going to be really nice to see. That's an internal dealer only thing that we're going to be doing in the Bottleless Nation database. So because sometimes when you change the UI, that CSS in the background changes, then some things you might have set up, like in the customer service portal, if we tried to do that, it would break some things. And you have to be very careful before you start to apply that component. I'm also looking forward to, once we make that change, that we can have that fresh foundation, and then we can start doing some other exciting things, like Calista was saying, get rid of more of that visual noise, and really make some more of those easy flow lanes for just more efficient business for all of
mhm.
us.
Yeah, no, that's huge. That's definitely important too. Especially when you guys are hearing about the, the struggles that people may have where they're like, I can't find this, or I'm not sure how to do this. So hopefully in
Mm-hmm.
cleaning that up, it makes your guys' jobs easier in some ways, hopefully. But, so give me a little bit of, because I know the timeline has shifted a little bit, but where are you guys
Mm-hmm.
at within the project? What can people look forward to, like a launch date? And
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people who are listening to this are probably the AEs who are using Waterdesk on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So what can they look forward to? Can you give us any details there?
Yeah. So our dates are going to be in November, and we're actually going to be approaching each Office H2O and Artesian separately,
Mm-hmm.
because how long it takes to do that full export, transform, import, that ETL export, transform, load process. So we're going to be doing them separately. We're going to start with the Artesian database. And because the Bottleless Nation Waterdesk database is actually a transformed copy of the Artesian database, I think it's going to be a really, quick, easy for the users to be able to get in there and get to it. We have Office H2O testers in that tester copy too, so they're getting familiarized for that group of testers that we're working with. And then the Office H2O team is going to have their data migrated that following week. So we're looking at probably the 8th, the weekend of the 8th of November, 15th of November. So that's what we're shooting for right now. And we're finishing our testing so we can actually confirm the dates at that time.
Yeah, yeah. But it's coming soon. So that's the main thing. Very soon. I love that.
Very soon. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is there anything that will be like major changes that will be seen when they, when they log on to the first time? Like, what can they expect, especially if they're used to using the old, water desk? What can they expect to see? What should they be excited about?
The UI is going to be, that's definitely going to be the very big difference. It's a clean, fresh sort of feel. And it is, and the colors are going to be more muted. I think a lot of people are used to those bright, more primary colors that you see in Waterdesk. It's going to be a lot more calming, I guess, especially with the Bottleless Nation blue branding that's so beautiful. That's what I think from the get-go. Kalista, did you have any other additional comments there?
Just to expand on it a little bit, the UI itself will probably be a large change, and change is uncomfortable, but it really is. I feel like calming is such a good adjective here, because it's the new UI is really it just moving from like outdated like website standards. It's a lot more modern, and there aren't so many hard like black like lines and boxes. Everything has like a very smooth flow, and again the colors are muted, so it won't be so jarring. And I feel like inherently, even though we haven't removed any visual noise yet, it sort of tones it down a little bit anyway. So I feel like even if there may be some rallying at the beginning, I feel like a lot of people will come around to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything, it's always, I think that's the hard thing with changing something, especially that they've been using for potentially years. You go in, and it's kind of when you update your iPhone, that's kind of what I always think about. Like, it's always annoying because you're like, wait, like this isn't how it normally is. And then you're like, okay, actually this like kind of makes sense. It's just not, we're so habitual in how we use technology, I think. So I'm excited to see the integrations, and also the new branding obviously is exciting to be used. We're building out the website with the new branding, and obviously everything under Bottleless Nation. So kind of see that in the real world and used is pretty cool to see as well. So
definitely, I think it'll be so much nicer for our technicians and our customer service team and our dispatchers that are right now having to bounce between two different databases, and they can have everything all in one. And, so yeah, that's going to be hopefully so much easier for everyone.
Yeah, very cool. I'm sure it's a lot. You guys are managing this huge project, but you also have the day-to-day that you guys are still in. So like what is that like as far as how have you balanced working on, this, which has like a pretty specific deadline of, when things need to be up and working? How has that been managing? And have there been any moments where you're like, oh no, like, are we going to get this done in time?
Kalista, do you want to speak to that one?
Yeah, well, first of all, Marie has been wonderful as a project manager. She really keeps everybody on their toes, because like things can change in like a second. We had another project manifest out of nowhere and dropped in our lap. So, priorities shift so fast, but I think that all of us have come to terms that it's just the nature of working here. So it's just, we're all very, very good at pivoting. And I think we're also really good at we do have some smaller issues like a disappearing button or like bulk loads or things like that, where we've gotten really, really fast at and learned to kind of knock those smaller things out. Marie has been very helpful in communicating to dealers that, hey, we're a little busy right now. We're not going to be as fast as we normally are. I think we have kept up our speed and, in like a reasonable time frame, but there definitely has been some delays here. So Ria's been wonderful in communicating that.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate everybody being patient with us as we try to juggle everything. And yeah, and Kyle and Kalista are always good about like, okay, we'll just move over to this and we'll do what needs to get done. And that flexibility is so key for a well-oiled machine that we have going on, that we try to be at least. So
Yeah.
everybody just, being good team players and just saying, okay, well, that's the nature of the beast, and that's just okay, that it'll all happen, but trying to be clear about what the expectations are from our leadership team is important. And if we're not clear, then we definitely, I'll always reach out to our director of IT, Cody, who's fantastic and is really helpful in advocating for us if need be, or making things clear if we need it to. So, and helping us figure out what the priorities are if it isn't even clear at my level. So that's really helpful. Much appreciated.
Yeah, it seems like you guys work really well together, and instead of it being kind of in silos, it seems to me that you guys are, always kind of, teaming up to solve problems and, putting your heads together. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, we learn from each other all the time. So it's great. We're like, okay, can we just all get on the call for a second? Let's talk through this. And it then we have some laughs and we're good, so it helps a ton.
Yeah, that's very cool. So the last question, we're over time, but we were just, I know it goes by quickly. Is there any, I guess, a final question about One Love or about Waterdesk in general? Is there anything that you guys wish people knew about, the back end, or, just something that sheds some light on something that they might not understand? Just some final words to share with everyone while we're here.
Kalista, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I wanted to start off by thanking everyone, because everyone has been so patient, and has been, especially the admins, and some of their requests. They have some larger requests that would make their job so much easier, or some like serious impediments where we really have to put our brains together and think about how we're going to solve this. And I mean, there's rush, but there's never any rush. Like, no one's ever like mean, or not that anyone would be, but I feel like everyone's always so graceful, and I feel like they put a lot of effort in telling us exactly what they need, and so that makes the job so much easier on us. But yeah, I think everyone has been just really on board with this merger, and everyone is, understanding that we're doing the best we can.
Yeah. Oh, yes. That's such a great sentiment. And I completely agree with everything Kalista just said. I think one of the things that, kind of like circling back to the original part of the conversation when Kalista was talking about the low code piece, that there are some requests that we receive sometimes, like, why doesn't the system work such and such way? Why can't we see it such and such way? When you're built on the type of platform that we're built on, sometimes we're not able to provide what some users might expect from look, feel, or experience. And we definitely hear that and try to do the best we can to fit within our current framework that we have. And but we also realize that we're learning and growing, and systems change, and that our use of that, and sometimes we just have to figure out how we can creatively get close to, even if we're not able to hit that exact mark. So patience is always appreciated and welcomed, and we'll do what we can to be creative and to do what we best can to serve, because that's what we're here for.
Very good, very good. Well, my final question for you guys, it's more of a personal one, but it's a fun one to end on. And it can be in relation to your younger self, meaning, when you were a child, or, growing up, or it could be your younger self pre One Love starting, or pre this job. Just what advice would you give to yourself at that moment in time, whichever one you pick? Just some things to think about, because I think what the podcast is also a lot about is learning about people in the other fields, and through their experience, like, we can learn so much in what they bring to the table. So I just love to give you guys an example, or a time to kind of share that of, what advice would you give? Because every time someone says something, I'm like, oh, that's a good one. I'm going to put that one in my pocket. I like that. So yeah, Marie, if you'd like to start and just give us your quick bit of advice.
Yeah, gosh, that's such a wonderful question, and also a really hard one, right? To speak to your former self. I would really say, follow your strengths. I know that a lot of people speak to, work on your weaknesses. And I think depending on what those are, that, you do need to do some of that. But I think for success, for life, and career wise, following your strengths is important, or is an important thing to do, because once you identify what your strengths are, then you are likely going to be more aligned to things that you're passionate about and things that you feel like you're succeeding at, and you can get even farther at, and you can share what gifts that you're given to the world more easily. If you're always fighting up against maybe what your weaknesses are, then it's a lot harder to see, what life can unfold for you. So I guess that would be what I would say.
No, that's so good. Have you actually heard of it's kind of a personality test called StrengthsFinder?
Yes.
Is that
I have.
Okay.
I have
I was going to say, are you into that? Because I was going to say,
yeah. I have a background in positive psychology and organizational development, and those are some of the things that I was introduced to at that point that kind of helped shape that belief of mine. So, and was really helpful in helping me kind of hone things a little bit more. So it's an ongoing process.
If anyone's listening and they want to take it, I think it's so good. It really,
yes.
I've taken it a couple different times in my life. It's essentially, if you've never done it, it's essentially a test where there's 40 strengths, and then it gives you your top 5. And what's cool is that even if, both of us are achievers, even if we both have that, sometimes the write-up is a little bit different, but depending on the other strengths that we have, which I think is so cool. Yes. And so I did it when I was in college, and then during my first job, and during another job. And depending upon what I was doing, I had certain strengths that stayed, but I had some that came forward depending upon like what role I had. And I just thought that was so interesting of like, I'm like, oh, I'm playing into this, so that's coming to the surface now.
Yes.
So yeah, I love StrengthsFinder. We could talk a whole other hour about it, I think. So
and you and I can at some point, absolutely, because I'm all about that. Yeah.
I love that. Kalista, what about you? What advice would you give to your younger self?
I would say it's more of a realization that I've made while I've been here. I know there's a lot of Marie Glaze, but Marie has been an amazing like mentor for me. We have a lot of personal conversations, and I feel like I wasn't the most like had the most belief in myself, and I feel like there have been a lot of like challenges for all of us, but speaking from a personal point of view, that where I wasn't so sure that I could do it. I mean, I didn't want to tell my boss that, but I was like, I don't know about this. And then as time went on, and you have all these accomplishments under your belt, you're like, well, your mindset starts to shift. You're like, well, maybe I can. And another thing that Marie really taught me is that, because, with team medicine, a lot of things can feel impossible. And, sometimes that is my first reaction is like, well, we can't do it, throw my hands up. But, Marie is always like, well, what can we do? And I feel like that's really important, and not only just in, water decks, but in life. Nothing ever has to be, an absolute no.
That's beautiful. I love that so much.
Me too.
No, it's so good, and you're right. It's not just within what you're working it with, but also, I mean, it's not a no. It's like, okay, well, what can we shift to? What can we change? What can we adapt? So, very good. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me for BNFM, and I can't wait to see the new and improved water desk. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Kylie. Thanks, Kalista.